As Iran's war spills across the region, is one of Trump's strongest European allies now quietly stepping back and leaving Washington to face Tehran's wrath alone? As fear of Mojtaba's Iran spreads, is Italy's sudden pullback from key bases just the latest sign of a wider Western exodus from the Middle East? Did a single drone strike on a NATO-linked base in Iraqi Kurdistan just force Italy into a rapid, reluctant pullback from the front line? Is Italy effectively fleeing Kurdistan while pro-Iran drones stalk the sky, turning once stabilization missions into targets overnight? And as Iran mocks US threats while allies quietly peel away, is it really Tehran being isolated, or Trump finding himself more alone in this war than he expected? As the region reels from missile volleys, oil shocks and evacuations, fear of what Mojtaba's Iran might do next is starting to shape how US partners behave. Italy has started pulling troops out of its main base in Iraq's Kurdistan region, according to accounts in Western media. The decision came right after a drone strike hit Camp Singhera, a base in northern Iraq used by Italian forces, on March 12. Rome says no Italian soldiers were killed or injured in the attack, but the near miss was enough to trigger a rethink. More than 300 Italian troops had been stationed at the base as part of the long-running US-led mission against ISIS. Around 100 have now returned home to Italy, while roughly 70 more have been redeployed to Jordan as a safer fallback. Reports suggest some 140 Italian personnel still remain in Erbil, holding a reduced footprint for now. At the same time, Rome has quietly withdrawn smaller detachments from bases in Qatar, Kuwait and Bahrain, shrinking its presence along Trump's front line. Defense Chief Guido Crosetto has confirmed that the drone strike was no accident, calling it a fully deliberate attack. Asked if it was a NATO-linked site, he said absolutely yes, stressing that the base sits inside the Inherent Resolve mission structure. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani has said the incoming drone most likely came from a pro-Iranian militia operating inside Iraq. Base Commander Colonel Pizzotti explained that troops were warned in time and moved into bunkers before the strike landed. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has publicly expressed solidarity with the soldiers, emphasizing that all Italian personnel walked away unharmed. Kurdistan has faced more than 190 missile and drone strikes since the war broke out, turning the region into one of the hottest front lines. Strikes have hit the Herat military base as well as Erbil's international airport, threatening both foreign troops and civilian traffic. Iranian Kurdish opposition headquarters in northern Iraq have also been pounded by Tehran's missiles during this period. Iraqi authorities say national airspace will stay closed until March 16 as a temporary safety measure while they assess the threat. Giorgia Meloni has made it clear that Italy has no intention of joining the US-Israeli war effort against Iran. She has even accused Washington and Tel Aviv of acting outside the scope of international law with their current strikes. Despite being seen as a Trump ally, Meloni has compared aspects of the campaign to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a stinging rebuke. Earlier, Meloni condemned the Minab girls' school missile strike, which killed more than 160 children, as a massacre that cannot be justified.
In this current crisis context of the international system, where threats become increasingly frightening and interventions multiply, unilateral interventions conducted outside the framework of international law, we must also place American and Israeli intervention against the Iranian regime. An intervention to which, I say immediately to avoid any misunderstanding, Italy does not take part and does not intend to take part. A military escalation that Italy has instead committed to avoiding together with nations such as Oman and Qatar. I recall that we have hosted nuclear negotiations in Rome twice, and that, from the beginning, we have supported every facilitation effort that was being conducted. For a long time, we also kept open a channel of communication with Tehran, emphasizing the urgency of an agreement that would ensure the exclusively civilian nature of Iran's nuclear program. Here, too, I think one cannot overlook questioning why such an agreement has not proven possible. Because on one hand, the Iranian leadership has always denied wanting to acquire a nuclear weapon, while on the other hand the Islamic Republic, as reported by the director of the United Nations Atomic Agency, Rafael Grossi, continues to enrich uranium up to 60% purity, a level that any expert in the field recognizes as much higher than what is needed for civilian nuclear uses, and very close to what is necessary to manufacture an atomic bomb. Something very different, for example, from the agreement signed between the United Arab Emirates and the United States, which includes the UAE's renunciation of enrichment in exchange for American cooperation in the development of their civilian nuclear program. A situation, therefore, that could not fail to raise concern, because I hope it is clear to everyone in this chamber that we cannot afford for the regime of the Ayatollahs to possess nuclear weapons, combined moreover with a missile capability that could soon be able to directly strike Italy and Europe. Even more so, because this scenario would mark the end of the international framework of non-proliferation and would lead to a nuclear arms race that would have dramatic repercussions on global security. We must work on the diplomatic front to assess if and when there might be room for a return of diplomacy, our voice to ensure that during the ongoing military actions by the United States and Israel aimed at neutralizing Iran's military capability, the safety of civilians, starting with children, is preserved. For this reason, on behalf of the government, I express firm condemnation for the massacre of the girls that occurred at the school in Minab in southern Iran, solidarity with the families of the very young victims, and the demand that the responsibilities for this tragedy be quickly ascertained. Secondly, we must complete the action of securing the tens of thousands of Italians present in the area and provide assistance to those who are stranded. We have organized flights and convoys that have so far allowed the repatriation of over 25,000 fellow citizens, giving priority to those in transit and those in particularly vulnerable situations.
However, Meloni has also warned that Europe cannot afford a future in which Iran's Ayatollah regime holds a real nuclear weapons capability aimed at EU territory. Italy and France have reportedly opened channels with Tehran to discuss safe passage for their shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The strait, which normally carries about 20% of global oil flows, has been repeatedly forced shut or restricted by Iranian action. Rome has denied cutting any under-the-table deal purely to protect Italian tankers, insisting that any talk is broader than that. Italian officials say their real goal is broader military de-escalation in the Gulf, not special treatment for a handful of national vessels. So far, no major European navy has stepped forward to routinely escort merchant convoys through Hormuz, underlining how high the risk is seen to be. Meanwhile, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian held a phone call with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on March 13 to discuss the crisis. El-Sisi reportedly condemned Iran's targeting of Gulf states, arguing those governments did not support attacks on Iran in the first place. Pezeshkian defended Iran's actions by saying it is only striking bases and facilities that the US and Israel are using to hit Iranian soil. Pezeshkian said, and I quote, "Iran has absolutely no problem with Islamic countries, and they are our dear brothers. However, given that the US and Israel are exploiting their territory and airspace to violate Iran's national sovereignty and territorial integrity and commit crimes against the Iranian people, we will, within the framework of our legitimate right to self-defense, target those bases." All this is unfolding as Iran security chief Ali Larijani appears at Quds Day rallies in central Tehran, projecting defiance. Larijani openly mocked Trump and Israel in his speech, even claiming the US president lacks the intellect to understand what he has started.
Trump's problem is that he lacks the intellect. The Iranian people are a valiant, strong, and determined nation. Whatever pressure he applies, the will of the Iranian people becomes stronger.
The Zionist regime has attacked again on the path. Are they scared?
These attacks are out of fear and desperation. Whoever is strong doesn't bomb a rally. It's obvious they are running out of options.